Hello, it's that there again, that particular hour for you and for me when we sit, open up, observe, learn some more that will benefit all of us, especially as individual. The show is Conversation, and my name is Elizabeth Abaya. Let me start by asking, have you eaten? Have you had breakfast? And then I'll ask again, what did you eat? And for your answer, I need you to write in paper, put it aside because we'll be needing it as time goes on. Now, I know that within this environment, our breakfast is always laden with a lot of sugar-based food. I like it too, so it's a problem. But do you know that our enemies could just well be in that, breakfast plate, on that plate? Yes. It is important we understand what we eat because as much as we know that our bodies need the glucose to transport, to do a lot of things together, a lot of it may not be too good for us. Also, the doctor said. So it's time for us to sit together and discuss the roller coaster of glucose in our system, what it means to our health, what it means to our beauty, what it means to our brain, what it means to our daily life living. We're going to be interrogating that, and sometimes I wish I wasn't part of this conversation because I love my sugars. Yes. My name again is Elizabeth Abba, and I have people here to speak on this. Hello.
Hi Liz, my name is Deva. I'm at your mom, and it's good to be here.
I know some time ago you used to be a lover of marshmallows.
I don't eat marshmallows anymore. Yeah, I don't. I'm happy
I
about that.
remember the minute she sees me, where is my marshmallows?
I don't eat that
I always
anymore.
make sure anytime I'm going to see her, I'll make sure I keep
Even
it.
then, when I was eating it, I knew I was eating like essentially raw poison, but I just loved the texture in my mouth and everything.
It's really nice.
And I've weaned myself of it. I can actually walk past marshmallows in the supermarket now. I'm so proud of myself. So I'm happy.
I'm good. All right.
Good morning. My name is Maimuna Omi Abdullah, aka Coach Didi.
And it's good to have you back.
Thank you, sis.
Where is your agege bread?
Honestly, you did buy your back.
All right, today's topic is the semi side of sweets. Yes, when we think we're enjoying our lives, a lot of times there is a price to pay for it. But let's get to find out a little bit of what Ehi and the company has put together on the side effects of sugar in our system. Let's see this.
From north to south, from east to west, we share one blood in our veins. The blood of Nigeria, Nigeria's blood proud and strong. We stand together, we belong together, we cherish our diversity. We celebrate our unity, we honor our history, we shape our destiny. We are Nigerians, Nigerian mothers, fathers, sons and daughters, brave and free. We love our country, we live by our fierce, unique bond. This is our blood.
Nigeria, better together.
This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
The show is Conversations, and while we were getting that, the doctor joined us. She is an internist, but then I'll let her introduce herself. Doctor, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm sure the audience wants to know your name and everything.
Okay, I'm Felicia Amima. I'm a professor of medicine, endocrinology and diabetology. I work in the University of Abuja and the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital. I'm currently the director of the Center for Diabetes Studies in the University of Abuja. I'm the president of Diabetic Food Nigeria Initiative and Nigeria representative to D-Food International.
Okay, I'm glad you just put a pause there because I'm sure if I opened up, 1 hour is not enough to discuss who she really is because I've known her for quite a while. And anytime I see her, I try to be in my best behavior. And I'm glad that you're not a regular visitor in this studio because you will notice the difference on my table. That's every other person will notice, but I don't want it to get to notice. So I always ensure that I behave well whenever I see her. But doctor, while you're relaxing, let me get to find out. I had a cup of coffee, and I like my cream caramel. I know that some people will tell me it's the same, to my health, but I had a little bit of it. And just to be sure that when I tell this story, I come out like the good girl I am, I had just crackers biscuits for breakfast. What did you do?
I had a cup of tea with 2 teaspoons of sugar and a little bit of milk. The reason I go there is because I'm proud of myself. Yes, some years ago, that 2 teaspoons of sugar would have been 5 or 6 cubes of sugar in
God.
a regular teacup.
Wow.
I liked my tea to taste. I used to pride myself. In fact, I used to say that my tea needs to taste like hot ice cream.
Wow.
That was the level of sweet I used to require. And that's the problem I've had from childhood. I had a sweet tooth from childhood. I was this person that would wake up very early in the morning and go and eat close up.
Eat close up?
The red one.
Yeah.
Used to be very sweet. I don't know about now. Because I'm talking like really small, like maybe 3-4 years old, because my hand wouldn't reach where they were keeping sugar, so you can't wake up first in the morning. Otherwise, the thing would have been wake up. I used to actually wake up first in the morning, dash to the kitchen and see if I could reach where the sugar was, so I could pop a few cubes. When that wasn't happening, I'd dash into the bathroom and eat some close-up for real. Wow. So that
you don't have stomach ache or something?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, and of course that was a nightmare, particularly for my mom, because she is the person who has to deal with you on a day-to-day basis in with regard to all of those things. So I had a sweet. I would guzzle down bottles of. I'm sorry, I'm calling product names. Let me say soft drink. That really sweet version, the orange-colored sweet version. I used to guzzle that thing down by, I'll take this one, then take the next, then take the next in lieu of
food. Dr. Felicia is having goosebumps.
And the thing used to finish with such, it used to finish so much that my mom thought the people she was leaving in the house were also, no, I would have thought them. It was me. So I remember one time, I'll never forget, and that's why till date I don't use sarcasm on children. They don't get it. I remember one time, my mother went out and she would always buy. She went and bought a crate of it. Then she told me, please try and finish this one in 2 days, eh?
Are you not sure?
No, hang on, let me. I was like, okay. Because I was genuinely thinking about how many bottles I would need to take to finish.
To be successful.
So then she saw that my mind was, and she was like, if this thing finishes in 5 days, we are going to have a problem in this house. And in my mind, I was like, make up your mind. What do you want? Should I finish it in 2 days or in 5? So till date, I don't use sarcasm on children. They don't get it. Yeah. But that's how bad of a sugar freak I was. So I think I've made tremendous progress.
Yes, wow. You have really, because I can attest to the marshmallow one. But let's go to Coach Didi. What did you do for breakfast today?
I had tea with honey and pepper soup.
Pepper soup?
Yeah, and akara. I'm actually on a protein diet, to be honest. I
don't know. Maybe akara. Pepper soup and akara. You didn't invite me.
I'm telling you. This is what I had this morning.
Okay, I'm still thinking about that combination. The doctor will help us. Doctor, I want to believe you've listened to our pack of rubbish or sense, whatever it is. But I'm wondering, what is the role of sugar in our lives?
Thank you very much. Well, sugar is essential in our lives. But when I say sugar, I don't mean table sugar. I don't mean the cubes. I'm not talking about the granulated. Okay. Because many of the things we eat, they have sugar in it. So sugar is essential for our lives. The cells, sugar is actually converted by a machine called mitochondria inside the cell into energy that will enable us to function, to do our activities daily. So sugar is essential. Sugar in quote.
Okay, so it's essential, like you said, and it's everyday food we consume. But I'm wondering what happens to me when I add extra. Like she added 2 cubes, I added cream caramel, she added honey. What does that translate to?
Let me say that there's a difference between the sugar she added to her tea the honey she added to her tea, and the sugar we get from the carbohydrates that we eat, because all the foods we call carbohydrates, they are eventually metabolized as glucose, what we call glucose, also called sugar, that our cells now make use of and provide us energy. So there's a difference. There's what we call refined sugars. Refined sugars are anything that tastes sweet in your mouth when you put it contains refined sugars. And refined sugars are sugars in their most easily absorbable form. They don't need any processing anymore. They don't need any digestion process. They run straight into the blood to increase blood sugar or blood glucose. So those are refined sugars. They don't need any processing anymore. As opposed to, I eat rice and then it goes through the digestion process, absorbed and eventually utilized as sugar or as glucose. Now, the most dangerous ones are the refined sugars, as far as our blood glucose level is concerned, because it runs there, doesn't need any processing, runs and increases the blood sugar. Now, the danger of blood sugar increasing all the time is that usually there is a normal level that is good for health.
What's that normal level? Because I keep asking. Some days I see 4, some days I see 5.
Well, it depends, but fasting blood glucose or fasting blood sugar, what we mean is the last meal of that individual is like 8 to 12 hours before. Then that is correct fasting blood glucose. Now, that should be between 4 and 6. In fact, between 4 and 5.5. Blood sugar 5.6 and above, we have a little bit of a problem. But it's not the diabetic level. Diabetes is when the fasting blood sugar is 7 and above.
Okay.
But there is a gap in between that we call pre-diabetes. All right. So between 5.6 and 7 is pre-diabetes, and that is also not a comfortable range. Why? Because of course it says that this person is on the road, is on the journey to getting frankly diabetic. But even then, this level can still cause harm in the body without the person manifesting symptoms, without the person knowing that there's anything wrong. So the truth is, the lower the better. Although, yes, we still don't want it to be below 3, for example. You understand? So that's why we say, okay, between 4 and 5.6 is comfortable. So as we keep taking these sweet things that rapidly runs into the blood to increase blood sugar, we have an organ inside our abdomen we call the pancreas. That's where the cells that produce this famous chemical, there's a famous chemical we call insulin, that helps us to make use of everything we eat as a source of energy and nutrition. Now, once the blood sugar is high, the cells identify blood sugar is high, we need to push out insulin to crash it down. We need to push out insulin to crash it down. It will do that for you for a while. After some time, you exhaust the cells. And when these cells get exhausted, there is no coming back. Then when whatever you take now builds up in the blood, and then the state of diabetes comes.
Okay, that's when they say somebody needs insulin injection or something. Or
well, there are various ways we treat diabetes. If small group of people, we can use dietary modification to manage them, but a large group will need medication, either tablets or insulin.
I have a question. Just so I'm sure that I'm getting you right. Does it mean that everybody who is diabetic has a compromised pancreas?
It's not the
pancreas?
It's not the whole pancreas. We have many cells inside the pancreas doing a lot of wonderful work inside us. But the particular cells that produce this chemical insulin, when they run into trouble, that is when diabetes comes.
Still, because we have a lot of diabetes in my family tree.
Okay.
Wow.
That's why I'm so interested. What role does beer play in spiking? No, not just any alcohol. I think beer specifically. in spiking blood sugar levels.
Okay. Let me say that alcohol is alcohol. Whatever name is given is not important.
Okay.
Alcohol is alcohol. And alcohol can be a risk factor for diabetes, can worsen diabetes control, and can actually precipitate some of the complications of diabetes.
So there's sugar and alcohol, even like, like dry gin, vodka, all these things, there's sugar in them.
Of course there is. But you see, it is not only sugar that is a risk factor, too much sugar that is causing diabetes or a risk factor for diabetes. There are so many other things that are responsible for an individual coming up with diabetes. Okay, family history is a risk factor. Okay. That person has a risk already. If one parent has diabetes, for example, any of the children of that parent has a 40% chance at one stage or the other in his or her lifetime. But I'm quick to say, if you have a risk, 40% risk of having a disease, God has put 60% in your hands to get well informed, get empowered, live right, and not have it.
That's nice. Now, taking you back to what you were saying earlier, you said refined sugar. And for me, it's the white sugar, the brown sugar, cane sugar, saccharin, all of those things. So if I take I take my coffee, perhaps black, no sugar inside, or maybe not exactly black, a little bit of cream, and I do it with donuts, creamy donuts. Donut doesn't taste too sweet, so I do it with cake. Why are you laughing at me now? Question. Okay, so I do it with cake. At the end of the day, is that also refined or something? When we talk about refined sugar,
I discovered that the cake in Nigeria is so sweet.
Oh wow, it's so sweet.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be so. For example, my diabetes patients can eat cake, but I tell them not to put sugar in it.
How do you?
It's possible for people to cake. It's possible to bake cake without sugar, but somehow Nigerians don't believe that is possible. But it is possible to bake cake without sugar. I have told you, the more of these refined sugars you consume, the more you stress those cells in the pancreas. All these things we are saying is try and preserve these cells to see you to old age. If you have this glass full of water and you pour all the water immediately, it becomes empty. But if you are pouring it little by little, then you still have that water to serve you for a while. So that's what we are saying. The more refined sugars and let me remind you that refined sugars are not just in the sugar we put in tea, the honey and all that. Fruits contain sugar. I made a statement, anything that tastes sweet in your mouth when you put it contains refined sugars.
Don't you like
refined sugar even in fruit, unprocessed fruit?
Like this apple
fruits, yeah, apple has
people told us an apple a day takes away from
yes,
your office.
I know. Apple has some little bit of sugar, but you see the amount there is less compared to some fruits. For example, pineapple that is very ripe. Will you compare the sweetness of that to the sweetness of apple?
No.
So there is what we call glycemic index. That's the how fast and how high a particular food we have eaten increases blood sugar. All right, and there are various ranges. For example, the glycemic index of apple is very low compared to pineapple, compared to very ripe mango. Do you?
What about cucumber?
No, cucumber is fine. The glycemic index is very small. Doesn't contain.
So if you're an adult, you can do a lot of cucumber.
No, you can eat cucumber without.
So when we talk about sugar, let me bring it home to carbohydrates. Not the highly processed carbs like bread and things like that. I'm talking of the more organic stuff like yam and such. How comparatively, how much sugar? For instance, I don't have diabetes, for instance, and I'm somebody who really likes yam and all this. How much yam am I eating that is unhealthy for me, or plantain, or what?
You see, what we are talking about is moderation in things. For example, somebody can say that I like bread, so I eat bread in the mornings, and then the person takes 5-6 slices of bread in the morning. That's obviously not moderation. Okay, I tell my diabetes patients, for example, who love pounded yam, I don't stop them from eating pounded yam, but I show them the size of my own feast, not their own. I show them the size of my feast, that they can take that. But now have a bowl of vegetable soup.
Okay.
Do you get my point?
Yeah.
Now, what the vegetables will do, vegetables, or what we call vegetables, are one of the sources of fiber. And the whole grains contain a lot of fiber. Some fruits contain fiber. It's bulk, so it's going to fill some space there. You're not going to feel so hungry. But in fact, there are people who can take a bowl of vegetable soup and some fish or chicken, and that's fine. That's enough. They don't even need to use. They're satisfied. Okay, so that bulk in the vegetable will be fine for you. And by the time they now take the size of my fish pounded yam, they are fine. But there are people who will sit and eat. The truth is, the size of food we eat in Nigeria is too much. We don't need that for health. That is actually detrimental to health. If you attend a buffet in Nigeria, and first of all, you know the plate they use is the very large plate, and you see human beings filling that plate to the brim, and before you say, Jack Robinson, that plate is empty. Sometimes when I see it, you know, it's like I'm having goose pimples. So the quantity, you see, as we age, the body metabolism slows down. So what we need to do is eat less and be more active. So if a 20-year-old can eat that big bowl of pounded yam, but he will go out there, run around and burn all the calories off. Are you getting me? But a 40-year-old cannot afford to eat that same size of pounded yam. His body is not going to metabolize it, and of course he's going to have excess that will settle as fat. Because when we talk about weight gain, weight is an enemy of every human being, all right? Excess weight, because God is a perfect scientist. The way God created us, there's an ideal weight for every height. And once you allow that weight to go beyond what that height was originally meant to carry, that's the beginning of trouble. So weight is simple economics. When your input is more than your expenditure, you have an extra that settles as fat.
Oh, that's good. Simple economics.
Yeah, simple economics. When your input is more than expenditure. Because we are meant to burn everything we take each day to maintain metabolic balance.
You know, when you say this thing, it takes me, you know, a little bit back to, you know, certain things some people have argued about. You know, they will tell you that they can eat anything because naturally they are meant to, you know, weigh it off. And then if you tell them, I recall when we had the program Healthline, where you said we should eat at least 2 hours before we go to bed. And then some other person said he eats 2 hours before he goes to bed. And then on questioning, it was that he eats and watches television and for 2 hours and go to bed. How does that work?
Well, the reason why we are saying there is a healthy time to eat dinner is because so that you can still be active for a while before you go to bed. It's very unhealthy that you eat. I sit here, I eat, the television is there. Then when I finish, I just remain where I am, watch the TV until I'm feeling sleepy and I go to bed. That's very unhealthy. The idea is eat early enough so that you can run around, do some activity, burn off some of those calories before you go to bed.
So ordinarily, what time would you recommend should be for the average adult? Let's say 30 and above, the last meal of the day. What time?
Dinner, we say between 6 and 7 is right for dinner.
Okay, and like I have an addiction to having one last cup of tea before I go to bed. Does that count as food?
Well, it depends. If you put your sugar into it and put all those things into it, it is still food.
What if she doesn't?
You're looking
No, I do not.
No, if she just takes the tea without adding sugar, without adding milk, that's fine.
Okay.
But by the time you add all those, that's food.
Okay.
You know, I was looking at something and it was on the internet, and the lady talked about consequences of excess sugar in our system. And it got me really perplexed, but I was you know, happy because I knew you were coming. I was going to have to clarify that when we have a lot of glucose, running around our system. It can make us age by way of our skin. May not look too good, and then it can actually make you either too dull. How does that figure in? Because I think that sugar is glucose is energy. So how will it make me? And then when you go to the spa, some people use sugar scrub.
Yeah.
So why would sugar inside my body make me look old?
Well,
my face makes me look
like
young.
I said, there is a normal range. There is a normal range for blood sugar. Just like any other, there are 1,001 chemicals inside our body. I made a statement that God is a perfect scientist. Okay, so there's a normal range for every chemical inside our body. Once the level goes beyond what is meant to be normal, that's the beginning of problem. So if blood sugar is not normal, then it's going to harass everywhere. The thing is, blood gets to every part of our body. The heart pumps blood to every part of our body for it to be alive. So if the blood sugar is not normal, everywhere blood gets to, it's going to harass it. That is why people who have diabetes, the complications are everywhere. It will affect the brain, the heart, the eyes, the nerves, the blood vessels, the kidneys, everywhere we run into trouble.
Can I ask a
because
question? Sorry.
blood glucose gets deposited, that excess gets deposited where it's not supposed to be. And once that happens, that's the beginning of problem in these organs, including the skin. Okay? And that's the reason why you appear to age faster, because of the processes involved in diabetes as a disease.
Okay.
How does diabetes affect the brain, ma'am?
Diabetes affects the brain cells. Excess blood glucose will affect the brain cells. Excess blood glucose will affect the blood vessels that supply the brain with nutrition and oxygen. And so, for example, one of the chronic complications of diabetes is stroke.
Oh, okay, yes.
Okay? Stroke can be a complication of diabetes.
In the brain.
Dementia can be a complication of diabetes.
Wow.
That's why I said everywhere blood gets to. Once that blood sugar is not normal, that excess sugar is going to affect.
God, please help me to stop eating sugar. It's a prayer. Seriously, because it's not easy. The way you're saying is it doesn't come back.
You did start by saying that sugar is important.
Actually.
So which sugars should we?
Well, when I say sugar is important, like I said at the beginning also, when I say sugar, I'm not necessarily referring to the sugar you put in the tea, the honey you put in the tea, because carbohydrate eventually is metabolized as sugar, and then the cells, the machine inside the cell now utilizes it, makes it, turns it into energy for us to be able to function. So when we say sugar here, we are not talking of just that, but what we are saying about the refined sugars is that they don't need any processing anymore, so they run immediately into the blood to increase the blood sugar. You should be aware of those ones.
Wow.
That's what we are saying.
Okay, the ones that go into your system and there's no hold up, no traffic jam,
no nothing.
Streets, those ones are very dangerous.
I have a question, ma'am. So what's the difference between honey and sweeteners?
Yeah, because
Like honey is always, and then I'm
the
told by what is
healthy sugar to take.
Well, there's this belief that honey is medicinal, so people see it as an alternative to sugar. It's okay, but honey eventually is still metabolized as glucose. So I tell people, for example, my patients who are diabetic, I stop them from honey completely.
Wow.
It is NO for people who have diabetes, because it's refined sugar, so it's going to run into the blood immediately. But those who don't have diabetes, no problem, they can take honey, but in moderation. You don't go drinking it that they say is medicinal. That's the issue.
What about the
now she's talked about sweeteners. Well, what I say to people if you can do without sweeteners, do without them. But if life is miserable for you, we don't intend to make life unbearable for you. You can use sweeteners. But if you can do without them, do without. And I'm one of those that believe there is nothing that we can do without. It's a question of determination and discipline. If she succeeded in coming down from, I don't know how many cubes
5, 6
to 2 now. The truth is, she didn't die now when she reduced it to 2. If she now decided, I'm not even going to put any more. The tea may taste
my happiness.
The tea may taste unpleasant for a week or something. But the truth is, after a week, the taste buds will adjust. And when you now put 1 cube, it will taste so sweet to you. That is like, maybe I will go back to what I was doing. So there is nothing that we can't do actually. God has given us that grace.
So are you recommending
I think
we
it
stop?
is. I'm not recommending we stop. I'm just saying we, particularly as we age, step down. You see, what we say is this: as we age, step down on the amount of sugary things, step down on the amount of oil, step down on the amount of salt. Are you getting me? Because the body is not going to be able to use them in such a way that you don't have health issues, that doesn't bring health issues. Step down on these things as you age, because your body, the reserve you have is running out. So you need to help the body, and the way you help the body to prevent disease is by stepping down on these things. Because when you check the level of these things in the blood, the lower they are, the better for you.
So okay, now I want to ask, as a lay person, when I hear that, oh, sugars might not be that good for you, I'm now thinking, okay, do I do more aloe vera, more bitter leaf? Will that help to
balance it?
Balance
like when
it.
you take 5 cubes of sugar, you go back and take 1 spoon of aloe vera.
No, okay, I'll stop doing the five. I'm actually ashamed of that thing now. But if I up my intake of bitter stuff, does that help the body?
I don't want us to use the word bitter stuff. Just uptake or improve your consumption of vegetables. Okay. That is what I will say. Bitter leaf is vegetable now. And then some micronutrients are in it. But we wash the leaf a little and then we put so up your quantity of vegetables. And in fact, take the vegetables first before you eat your main meal.
Okay.
Because it will help. What it will do is to reduce the rate of absorption. It will delay the rate of digestion and delay the rate of absorption of glucose from what you have eaten. Okay, when you do the vegetables first.
So a vegetable should be the starter.
Yeah.
For the main meal.
When you go to restaurant, they actually give you vegetables last.
Yeah.
Vegetables should be first.
It should be first.
That's the healthy way to eat.
I actually read that somewhere and it made sense to me.
Should be
vegetables
first
should be
because
first.
it contains fiber. And fiber will line the wall of the intestine, of the stomach, the intestine. So it's going to delay the rate at which your rice is broken down. It's going to delay the rate at which glucose is absorbed from the rice. Remember I said, when we say sugar in quote, every carbohydrate we eat eventually is metabolized as
Ma'am, please,
glucose.
I'm still going to go back to the alternatives because, you see, as you said, we're growing older and most of us are running away from the refined sugars. So we move towards honey, we move towards sweeteners and even date syrup, because now we have date syrup. They say it's even better. So what do you say about that?
See, anything that tastes sweet in your mouth when you put it contains refined sugars. And the summary is step down on the amount of refined sugars that you consume so that you can preserve these cells that help you to bring down blood sugar level. Every time, can you imagine every time they are harassed? Oh, blood sugar is high. I have to secrete insulin to bring it down. Blood sugar is high. You are harassing those cells. What we are saying is, you have a role to play to step down on the rate at which your blood sugar goes high all the time, so that you can allow these cells see you to old age. Very simple step.
As the prof is talking, I'm seeing Coach Didi making conscious effort to justify one or two things that she's been doing. But at the same time, our social media handle is really on fire. A lot of people are writing in. Let's take this one from Lagos. She says, my name is Favor. I want to ask, does eating too much sugar in any form affect menstrual blood or flow?
Well, like I said, if blood sugar is high and it remains there, that's diabetes. Diabetes can affect everything. Diabetes can be a reason for infertility.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I didn't know
And
that.
I thought diabetes was supposed to be
In men and
old people's
women?
age.
Yes.
As old people's sickness.
No,
So I elderly don't get
let
infertility.
me tell you something. The commonest type of diabetes, we call it type 2 diabetes. So 95% of cases of diabetes is type 2. And in the past, we didn't used to see this type of diabetes in young people. It's elderly, I mean adults, let me not say elderly, adults, okay, from 30, 35 and above. But even in children now, we see type 2 diabetes. Why? What we did is we civilized everything about us. And so we began to acquire the diseases of civilization. We left the African or the Nigerian healthy diet for the civilized diet.
I would say westernized.
Okay, civilized, westernized, whatever you want to call it. I mean, something shocks me in Nigeria as of today. In the past, on Sundays after church, families will go home and they will go and cook healthy food and eat at home. But what do we do now? It is so classy. It is classy for us, you know, and evidence that I can afford it because, you know, in Nigeria we love to show off. Whatever we have, we want to show it off. Okay, so it's classy for us. We show it off that we can afford to go to this classy restaurant to eat, and we go there with all the family members and we go and eat what is there. And most of the time what is there contains too much sugar, too much oil, too much of everything, okay, and we keep consuming these things happily. We don't know that actually what we are doing is killing ourselves slowly. So what has happened is that excess weight now occurs in children, okay, and excess weight on its own can bring diabetes even without a family history. Excess weight
children actually like that. They call
can
them children.
bring hypertension even without a family history and the consequences thereof. So if somebody has a family history of diabetes, what I tell the person is you will avoid excess weight the way we avoided HIV, the way we avoided COVID. That's the way the person should avoid excess weight. Because once weight comes, then the person has two reasons now: family history, excess weight, while he or she will become quickly diabetic.
Meanwhile, let me quickly ask you this question. It's running around in the back of my mind. Beans, is it a protein or a carbohydrate?
Well, we classify beans as second class protein. Why? Because it has some carbohydrate in it.
But the protein base is higher.
Well, it's almost 50. But let me tell you that the glycemic index of beans is much lower compared to pounded yam, for example, compared to eba, compared to rice. So beans is quite a good meal that, you know, we can take. Another thing to see here, I hope I don't end up confusing people, is that when we do my you know what we do? We process the beans. We remove the bark. And the bark is the fiber. Remember what I said fiber does. So we blend it, we process it, and then we now do it. I'm not saying we're not going to eat my is fine. But when you check the glycemic index, the glycemic index of mama is a bit higher than when we cook beans, because we have processed the beans.
So maybe we can make moi moi with the bark.
Is it
Just try
well, in my case, we do something like that we don't call it my, we call it another name, but you can prepare beans like that.
Okay, what about fruits? Between whole fruits and smoothie and juices.
Okay. That's another thing. You know, like I said, in Nigeria we love to show off in everything. There was a time smoothie became very fashionable in Nigeria, so we see everybody carrying bottle around smoothie. This apple, I'm assuming they look like the same size.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I take 2 now, I give you 1, and then you eat that one like that. Then I go, there's a blender somewhere, I blend my own, I turn it into juice, and I drink it. Now when you check our blood sugars 2 hours after, my blood sugar is going to be higher than your own, even though it's the same size of apple. Why? Because I processed my own, I denatured my own, I removed the fiber, I disintegrated the fiber. So I have processed it, I've stepped up the glycemic index. That's the reason. So usually we advise that eat the fruit like that with the fiber. Well, we don't want to make life miserable for people at the same time. If people love smoothie, okay, once a while you can make your fruit smoothie, but smoothie or juice should not be the constant way of you're taking food.
But ma'am, if I blend the apple with the peel,
you have broken it down. Is the peel still remaining the same after broken it down?
People are writing in here. Let's quickly take as much as we can. Mr. Osman from Gombe State, please, doctor, kindly advise me what lifestyle can I adopt as an early detected diabetic patients. To kindly comment on patients taking moringa, bitter leaf, okra, and all of those things. All right, so, and I think he said, sorry I called you doctor, you're actually a professor. She said earlier, it doesn't matter. All right, so let's take more. Good morning to presenter and guests. This conversation is timely for me. I want to ask, I discovered that anytime I take anything that has sugar, I will stool and purge for days. This started 2 months ago. Is my body reacting to sugary food as well? All right, let's see if I can add one more to it before we go. Good morning, ma'am. My name is Grace. Please, how time in a year? Okay, I guess this, how many times in a year can we check our sugar level? That reminds me, while you answer those questions, I'd like to know, going in line with this, when we should actually start checking regularly.
Well, we advise normal checkups once a year at least. People should do full medical checkups, and in that process blood sugar of course will be included in one of the basic things to do. So at least once a year blood sugar should be checked, but that is different too from somebody who has diabetes. That one, the checking is quite regular,
every day or every week?
At least. Well, the truth is, in the developed setting where there is medical aid or insurance to support that individual, the check is many times a day, because it is like you are running after this blood sugar to make sure it is normal most of the time, if not all the time. That's the idea. All right. For example, you check before your breakfast, you check after breakfast to find out how much has this breakfast stepped up my blood glucose. And then you look at what you have eaten. Let's say, I'm talking about people who have diabetes now. Let's say blood sugar was 6 fasting before the meal, and 2 hours after the breakfast blood sugar was 12, becomes 12 or 15. 12. Then the person knows that the breakfast has accounted for 6 or 8 millimoles.
Wow, that's heavy.
So that is much, that is heavy. So the person can tell him or herself, okay, tomorrow, even though I like this food, I'm going to step down on the size and see how, you get what I mean. So it's quite regular for those who have diabetes, because they have to run after this blood sugar to make sure, because once it is not normal, it causes damages from head to toe, trouble. So, and that's why I'm always telling people that I've been in the field of diabetes for decades. Anything anybody can do to prevent this disease, it is worth it. Whatever effort any individual can do, particularly for those who have risk factors for diabetes, whatever efforts they can make to prevent it coming is worth it.
All right, so Faith from Favor from Lagos says, thank you, Professor, for answering the question. And then, can a diabetic patient eat apple? I think she already mentioned. She said yes. Then the other person that asked, I think I remember the question, but let me open it. Doctor, is it okay to eat whatever I want and then go to the gym and burn it out later? How does that work?
My answer will be no.
Wow.
You see, because if you take 5 bottles of Coke, or eat all the sweet things and say, I will go to the gym to burn it out. Remember, once you take these refined sugars, blood sugar will go up. And it should not remain there. So, these cells will have to push out insulin to crash it. You are harassing these cells. Before you go to the gym in the evening, those cells are already harassed. Because your blood sugar cannot remain where it is until evening when you will go to the gym.
Wow. Wow. Anyway, Progress from Abuja says, Ma, what is the effect of eating fruits before breakfast, or do we take it after breakfast? You know, I was actually going to ask that. Fruits, cereals, how do I arrange my breakfast?
We should take it at the end, when we have eaten. Fruits are better at the end.
At the end,
when we
maybe
have
30
eaten.
minutes after?
Well, no, when we have eaten our main meal, then we can add the fruits.
All right, some people are asking me about some a lot of moringa, bitter leaf, nature, and all of that. What does it do to the blood
the
sugar?
truth is, some of these things, they actually contain micronutrients that are helpful. I mean, that are useful to the body. But to say that they are now the main treatment for diabetes, we are not so sure of that. In fact, when my patients tell me that they want to go into those things and stop their medication, after counseling them, I give them the freedom to make the choice, because they still have the fundamental right to decide what they want to do. So they go and do those things. And I say, check your blood sugar. Whatever it is you can do, and those blood sugars are normal, fine, beautiful. All we want is let blood sugar be normal. But what many Nigerians will do, they won't want to check, so they don't see what it is.
What you don't know won't kill you.
But eventually, our experience is that many of them come back with all sorts of complications of diabetes, and we have to start again.
Somebody says here, this is the best program I've watched in the television in this century. Thank you immensely. Oh, thank you so much. Hassan Gimbia Zakari from Abuja. Thank you so much. Now, Doctor, I would like to know again the place of sleep in coping with diabetes.
Okay. Thank you very much. There's a book I wrote on lifting the burden of diabetes, an empowering tool. There, one of the chapters is the relationship between sleep and diabetes. Sleep is very, very important. Why? Because that's the time the brain cells have the opportunity to get rid of all the toxins that they have accumulated through the day. You know, through the day we go through all sorts of things, and quite a lot of toxins are secreted because of the pressure that we go through. So when we sleep, then the brain has that space to get rid of all these toxins. So sleep is so important that it's recommended. There's what we call sleep hygiene, and one of the recommendations is that at least minimum of 7 hours of sleep is what we require per day. When we are not sleeping, you know, and we are alert, like I said, there are like 1,001 chemicals inside our body that work together to make us function through the day. There are certain chemicals or hormones we call stress hormones. The intention of God is that when we are faced with danger, these hormones will be secreted to quickly help us to handle that danger on the immediate, and then their levels should go down when the danger is over. I mean, all of us require some little bit of stress to function properly, but not excessive stress. Okay. So these hormones will remain, and they are active. And these hormones act contrary to the action of insulin. So when your stress hormone levels are high and they remain there, it can actually be a reason for diabetes.
Wow. So for all those who are thinking that when Elizabeth does her beauty sleep, she's oversleeping, I'm glad somebody is supporting, at least for the first time today. There's something I've been complimented on.
Usually by 9:30 a.m. By 9:30 p.m. I'm hugging my pillow.
All right.
Usually.
Oh, yes, that's how it should be. Somebody is actually giving us the name. He says making moi moi with the back of the beans is called apapa in Ibira land. My name is Ahoiza from Gwagwalada. And then on the final thought, Doctor, would like you to briefly talk about the use of vinegar. It's becoming very trendy. Apple cider vinegar and all of that to control.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, vinegar has been in existence for so long, but people should not take it like that, because it's acidic. It can, affect the esophagus and the stomach. So you dilute it. In fact, some people suggest that there are some dressings that are made of, that has vinegar in it. You could use that, for your vegetables, rather than raw vinegar. But if you have to use raw vinegar, please dilute it.
All right, our time is almost up. I'm going to get Devon and Coach Didi to speak their final thought. But somebody is writing here from Umar. He says, Barrington is, can we blend a couple of fruits, pear, watermelon, guava, apple, banana, cucumber, grapes, and drink a cup a day? Godwin Asomora from Umar here. I'm going to play the doctor's mouthpiece now and tell you the answer is once in a while, yes, but then eat it whole. That's how she said it.
Yeah.
All right, so
Eat it whole. Cut down on the sugar as you age. That's all I have to say.
okay.
I have received sense.
All right, those are your final thoughts.
Well, what I want to tell Nigerians is that prevention is the cheapest option we have in our setting. In a situation where people have no health insurance, no support, chronic diseases are very expensive to treat.
Yeah.
1 month dose of an antihypertensive now is like 30,000 per month. 30,000 naira for one drug. So if this person is diabetic and hypertensive and is on like 5-6 drugs, I mean, indirectly death has come.
Right,
And so the cheapest option we have in Nigeria is prevention. People should get empowered. People should get knowledge so that they can live right and prevent having these chronic diseases.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm not the only one thanking you. Somebody says, please convey my deepest gratitude to Professor Anuma for this educative talk on diabetes and well-being. Thanks to the conversation theme for making this happen, John Aduku Kaduna. Thank you so much. We so appreciate you. And for the rest of you who are writing, we'll try to reply you off the camera. And pretty much like Coach Didi, yes, Elizabeth has also received signs, and I think that a whole lot of us out there have actually gained same. Try little by little, be like Devon, move from 5 to 6 cubes to 2 cubes a day. Gradually, we can make it a habit. We all want to live long, and while we are living longer, we are also healthier with good bones and good skin to show for it. I'll see you again next week. Meanwhile, don't forget, being a good Nigerian also includes you ensuring that you are healthy. Bye.